Good to see you.
Okay there, Revenants. Welcome back to Code Vein, and today we're going to be, or this episode, whatever it is, we're going to be looking at the Wistful Wanderer or the Successor of the Throat, whichever you prefer. Now, I know this is a depths version, but stats are all the same, so don't worry about that. Okay, so as we get into it, let's start with the pipe first, since this has a nice even number here of physical damage of 100, so we can see exactly what she's resistant to here for crush. And remember to multiply this by 0.9 because it's on a first strike. And if we look at her damage reduction phase there, she has a huge damage reduction. Whoops. Okay, and if we get over here, 67. Okay, so 67. That means, so if you'll notice, it's not just 100 times a number. So 100 times 0.9 is our initial strike because it's on the first striking pattern. So then 67 divided by 100 times 0.9 gives you 75% of the damage, which means that she has a 25% resistance to crush in phase 1. So pretty good resistances there, to be sure. And if you look at her damage reduction of the initial beginning there, that was 10, and she has a 90%, basically a 89, 90% resistance to all physical damage at the beginning there. So you don't want to damage her during the damage reduction phase because you're losing 90% of your damage, which is really bad. Okay, so if we look at a slashing weapon, this is a uh, um, slashing weapon of the Queenslayer blade here, and this has a damage modifier of 0.9 on the first strike, so 418. And if we take a look at the um, attack here, wait till she moves, so 338, so 338. So 418, so 338 divided by 418 times 0.9 gives you 10%. So she has a 10% resistance to slash. So that's really nice. And then if we check Pierce, which is our impulse anchor here at 810. So let's see if we can go ahead and get on in here. And so 810 is our number. And we lost about 200. So, and she has a 25% resistance to pierce. So definitely of interest there that she has 25% resistance to pierce, 25% resistance to crush, and a 10% resistance to slash. So that's her physical weaknesses. Then all of those physical weaknesses or resistances, whatever, they all go up by 5% in the second phase. So Pierce would go up to 30% reduction, Crush would go up to 30% reduction, and Slash would go up to 15% reduction. So you definitely want to be doing slash damage versus this lady here. So that's why we have the Executioner here, because it's a fantastic weapon. And if we look at our value here, 937, and this has on the first strike a multiplier of 0.9. So you remember the formula to figure out elemental resistances. It's the value on the card times the initial strike modifier, or whatever move modifier you have for whichever striking position you're on. This has a 4-strike pattern, so depending on what position you are in the 4-striking pattern, it will determine the amount of damage. So it's that physical damage times that modifier on the weapon times her resistance, which we don't know, that's the unknown, right? And then, which we know now is 10% resistance, so times another 0.9, so 0.9 squared, and then times 1 plus the 0.2 from the elements here, and then minus her resistance to minus her resistance to that element. So here the unknown that we're searching for is the amount of resistance. So if we take whatever her damage value is that we have when we're paired up here, we will know exactly what her weakness is. So 937 was our number, and we got to look at what number we come up with here. So 759. Okay, so what we do is we plug it into our handy dandy calculator here, times 0.9 squared times 1 plus 0.2 minus x equals 739, and that gives us a 20% reduction in blood damage. Blood is basically neutral, so you add 20%, then you subtract 20%, and so there's no effect there. The same goes for fire, and lightning is a 40% reduction in her damage, so no lightning for sure. Blood and fire you can kind of get away with if you go above 20%, but you're still using a lot of effort to go above and beyond there. But for ice, on the other hand, she has no resistance to ice, so she's a complete zero against ice. So you'll notice that we'll go much higher than that 739 value. Whoops. Okay, so there we go, 911, and that's almost up to our card value of 937. So that's very nice. Okay. And of course on the dodges and such, you get the other damage multipliers. So definitely good to go for ice versus her, and slashing as much as possible. Slash ice is exactly what you want to do overall for whatever you're going for. Now for certain weapons, like the two-handed swords, you'll see here that you have some slash weapons. Then you have some of the hybrids, like this guy where it's a slash crush, or this one where it's a pierce crush. So during regular attacks, this thing's a pierce. During gifts, it's a crush. So kind of keep that in mind. Excuse me. So let's check out her statuses here in a second. Okay, and the weird thing about her is that on the statuses she has kind of something that nobody else has when it comes to the status effects. This won't be fair because we're using this, so we'll go for an intensified here, so we don't have any bias towards one element or one status over another. And if we start wailing away here, you'll notice that she has a very good weakness to poison, followed by slow, and followed by a final one of stun there. So very good to know that. Okay, and 3, there we go. Alright, and let's go ahead and head out of here, but you'll notice that she's immune to Inhibit. So most bosses, they can be poisoned. However, her main weakness is to a status is poison, which is very, very interesting. So if you're going for something like debuff build-up, you can pair it very nicely with opportunism, because this works when somebody is having a status ailment. So when that little red box goes completely red with the status effect in it, then she will take increased damage from opportunism. And because she's so weak to poison, basically, and the poison buildup, you can go for a poison weapon with debuff buildup and poison or venom mark and a venom cartridge, and you can get a weapon up to 100 venom, which is really, really nice that you have that option available to you, and she can get poisoned in 3 strikes about. And so it's really, really helpful if you're trying to go for a status effect against her. I would definitely say go for poison, because she takes such a weakness to it. 1, 2, 3. Oh, almost 3. Okay, so 4 hits, and she gets poisoned. So that's very, very nice that it's indeed only 4 hits, but it was really, really close there, right at the connecting point. So almost 3 hits, but but a huge amount of build up there. And so if you're looking to have that damage out on her all the time with opportunism, poison will be your status of choice. Now during transition points between phase 1 and 2, she has a 50% damage reduction in place. So she still does take damage, and she does take poison damage through that entire transition phase. So if you want to poison her up during that transition phase, she'll take that full 15% with no damage reduction. Let's drink some water. Because she takes such a reduced damage set to Pierce and Blood, especially into phase 2, just having something like Radiant Barrel, she's always been my nemesis against Radiant Barrel, and I've gotten really, really close with Radiant Barrel, but haven't been able to actually get there yet. But going for Slash Ice, she is one of the bosses that is extremely difficult to one-shot. We'll go through some of the sets there for that, but on normal difficulty at 0 stars, she has 58,200 HP, so quite a bit of HP. She's kind of like the mountainous pile of HP here in the game, and on max difficulty here, it's almost 3 times that amount at 154,400 HP, and that is just an incredible amount of HP that we're barking up her tree here. Now the where is he? The Cannoneer, he has 148,100 HP, so he is a high contender here for the most HP in the game, but she is very high up there on the HP pile, and that's why in the max difficulty she's always super difficult, because she's just overwhelmingly difficult. Okay, then in phase 2, none of her elements change, so that's very nice, and so you're able to continue doing Slash Ice, but in phase 2, obviously, you get that extra 5% added to Slash Crush and Pierce. But where is she? But if you try and go for some of the one-shots, setups and everything, it kind of is really rough regardless. So you could go for some of these. What are we doing here? Okay, so we need this and this, and probably strength and dex and mind is most likely what we're going to need. And if we go for a slashing weapon, see, this is a crush weapon, so this would have huge amounts of resistance. So now the question is, when you apply Merciless Reaper, which is better, to have a lower base resistance and use Merciless Reaper, or a higher base resistance, because then Merciless Reaper adds more? Well, if you take, for Slash example, she has 90% of her damage that you can deal to her, but then Merciless Reaper would give you 75% of her 10% resistance, so you would be able to yield 97.5% of your total damage possible out on her. Now if you go for something like Crush, you would have 75% of her damage that you can put out on her because of her 25% resistance, plus 75% of that 25% resistance gets you to 93.75% damage that you're capable to put out. It'll probably round it to 94%. So you're talking about 4% difference here, but it really does make a difference. At 4% over 100,000 is 4,000 damage that you're missing out on. And if it comes down to it and you're doing 150,000 or you're doing 154,000, then that 4,000 sure makes a difference. So it's not trivial by any means to go for something like Crush versus a slash weapon. So if we would go for a slash weapon, overall we would have 2184. That's a pretty good number. 2164. That's a really good number. 2226. That's a very good number. Let's see, 2226, so same number here between the two, but oddly enough, the intensified Judgment Edge comes out on top at 2241, being the highest damage value possible here on her, which is kind of strange, and you wouldn't really think that to be the case. So if we went for something like this guy with the ice damage, even though it has the extra ice damage, we're losing a lot more than what's possible here. And even though this is higher by a little bit more, again, you have that what is that? 3.75. You have that 3.75% resistance that you're missing out on. So it's really going to hurt you if you go for something like this rather than the Judgment Edge. So you would go for Judgment Edge and not this, and then we would pick this and Jack and Bridge, and, oops, and Ice, and this, oops, and no Merciless Reaper here, so I would probably go for, what am I saying? We need Merciless Reaper and Flashing Fang, and there we go. So this is kind of like the most damage you can put out overall. And I don't need this, but that's okay. Maybe a dodge there would be good. So something like this is kind of how you would put out the most possible amount of damage here on her, so to speak. Okay, and let's look at what the one-shots actually kind of bring you out to, because having that mountainous pile of HP sitting in front of us, it's a little overwhelming. So we'll see how close we can get here, and it's really sad, but it's just the way that the designers of Codemain made her, which I'm okay with, but it is a little sad. Okay, good, and this, and here we go, and this, and dash, and okay, gotta wait for that damage reduction, and go. And you can see there, even though we have a massive amount of damage, you cannot one-shot her, which is very intriguing. But you can two-shot her, so that's pretty amazing. That you can go up to, what was that, about 27% of her health. So 154, 400 times 0.73, let's say. So that was about 113,000 damage or so. We can actually calculate that up based on the gifts here and everything we had. But you can get really close overall. But it's really unfortunate that she is one of the very few bosses in the game that you cannot one-shot at the highest difficulty here, and it's just because the fact that you just literally don't have enough to get 154,000 damage in one hit. So you always get her to that second phase, and yeah. But if you did go for friends, somebody could give you overdrive, somebody could give you another frost weapon, and somebody could give you what is this? Offensive order, this one. And so offensive order, overdrive, and another frost weapon, and you could potentially between a co-op setup, you could potentially go over that 154,000, because if we took that like 112,000, 113,000, whatever theoretical, and we multiplied it by 1.25 from another overdrive, and times a 1.2 from another offensive or from an offensive order, that gets us up to 169,000. And if so even regardless of the the damage coming out from Slash and Merciless Reaper, you would be able to one-shot her, but it would have to be in a co-op setting, and it would have to be this build here, plus a co-op with somebody with those three gifts, another frost weapon. They would have to have offensive order and overdrive, and then you could actually one-shot her. But that's just not the case when you're playing alone, or when you're playing with an in-game partner here. Now, another way to kind of quickly make uh, quickly make quick work of her is to go for something like this here. And the reason being is that you can stun her into oblivion, and if you wanted to not go for ice but go for poison, so she would be poisoned the whole time as well. So you could go for poison and stun, and you can kind of put her down pretty quickly with this kind of a set. So let's go ahead and see what this will do to her. Okay, and we need this. Now Prometheus is kind of the unsuspecting victim here, but it's very, very cool that you can use Prometheus to do something like this. And it's very nice that even while she's in transition phase, you can use your gifts, and you can go ahead and keep getting damage out because of Blade Dance here. And even though she's immune to your damage almost during phase transition, you're able to completely get her removed from the game, so to speak. Okay, because she still adds to your damage count that the game is ticking off. Okay, so as we head on in here, and we just go ahead and casually saunter on up and go for some damage here. And she's stunned, so we'll go for this, and she'll go ahead and stagger here a little bit. She'll get poisoned again. Okay, and we'll go for more stun here, and you see that she's just continually to tick off damage, and very easy, very quick, very simple. So there are ways to chew through her mountains and mountains and mountains of HP, but even during phase transitions and even during starting phases and everything, there are some really, really good builds out there overall. And if we just make up the goofiest one, which is the stun hammer, the stun huge hammer here. Okay, and let's see if I can get this right here. I think we need this, yeah. I don't think it matters here. Okay, so we'll go for this one, and let's see. We're slow mobility, but okay, so I guess we'll go for survival instinct, and we'll go for strengthen dex, I guess. Okay, and then here we would go for ice. Well, we would go for this first, and I guess we'll go for strength and willpower just for the beginning here, and go for this and bridge and this and this. Let's see. Well, I think I would put this here, and then I would go for somatic zeal, and then I would go for this. Actually, I'll probably go for gift extension, so we make sure that we're adequately prepared here. And then I would go for ice and stun. Yeah, sure, this will be good. We're slow, so we should be at least normal. That's fine. Okay, and we'll go for something like this. But the first gift that we have to go for is something like this, to make sure that we have enough ichor to pair up with Jack. Okay, so these are just some kind of weird suggestions here to go through her HP as kind of fast as possible, while at the same time having a lot of fun doing it, because again, she just has piles and piles and piles of HP in front of you, and the faster you can get through them, the better. Okay, let's go ahead and heal up here. Okay, good. Good, and we're up to full. That's good. Okay, good, and then we do this, and then we do stun weapon. Good, and then we go back to hammer mastery. Okay, and I guess we'll go for ice as well. Okay, and this is fun to just smash away. Whoops. There we go. And we lost a little bit of damage there because of overdrive going away. But this is again just kind of one of those goofy kinds of sets here. But because we're doing crush damage, she staggers a lot off of this. So it's a really good, funny way to kind of go about it. Okay. And let's go ahead and get her taken care of here. Okay. There we go. Oh, and Jack got the final hit. So if we wouldn't have gotten hit on the first run there, it would have been better. Now you can pair this up with Impact Shockwave or Impact Wave as well, if you need to. I mean, it deals additional damage. It does the stagger thing, blah blah blah. It does crush. It's light value, so it pairs up nicely with our huge light value here and everything. So you can do that too, and that is also helpful. A helpful way to kind of go about getting through here. Now, if you go for a Radiant Barrel set, that is not advised because this does blood damage overall, and since it's Pierce as well, it does Pierce blood damage, and those are some of her strongest resistances overall. But you can get very close in spite of all of that because of Merciless Reaper as well, helping you with her Pierce resistance, but it doesn't help you with the blood resistance. So going for something like Radiant Barrel is highly not advised. So definitely go for Poison. Again, you can poison her very easily. Stun is her, again, it's her strongest resistance, minus Inhibit being completely immune to it. But at the same time, there are a whole bunch of different builds and setups and everything here to go through her health very quickly. And again, if you're doing this on regular difficulty at 0 star, I mean, you can chew her up and spit her out like immediately. She's really simple on 0 star after you've played through the game once. The first time through the game, it's about the same difficulty as what you have here. It's really difficult. But then after your first playthrough, because you have access to a whole bunch of things, the second playthrough, you can just spit her up. You can just chew her up and spit her out so easy because you have so much access to stun and poison and all kinds of different things. So yeah, the Successor of the Throat is no joke though. If you do not pair up specifically in some of these crazy builds to do this stun stuff or the poison stun from Prometheus or something like the one-shot kind of sort of basic setups for the great swords, she becomes an overwhelming bear to go against. And you saw here we were going for crush damage and blood damage, and we were still able to take her down really easily because it's not about the amount of damage we do, it's just the prolonged sustain that we have in our crushing ability, and the stagger amount that you can get because of the huge hammer doing crush damage. So yeah, you can overcome some of her resistances, but it's in your best interest to just go slash ice and put her down quickly and effectively, because if you don't, I mean, you kind of pay for it with all these wild full arena sets and everything that she's got going on. But yeah, so just to recap, slash ice and poison, slash ice, poison, and if you're feeling frisky, go for stun, but don't do anything else because you'll regret it. And you can use any of the one-handed swords except the Argent Wolf. The Argent Wolf blade does crush damage, so you will get extremely reduced damage out of this weapon. So something like the machete would be nice. Something like the Enduring Crimson or Hanamakuro. Those would be good swords. One of the best ones for her is the Ice Blood, just because of the fact that it already has ice on it, and then you can make it with a Fionn Chrome transformed, and you get 20% more ice, which then she has no resistance to overall. And then if you add Frost Weapon to the Ice Blood, you get 60% free damage out on her. And then if you pair up with a Freezing Cartridge, and other things. You can get up to a 70% damage on ice just on the ice blood alone. So it's really, really good. It's one of the best swords you can go for against her. And if you put that into the Prometheus build here, where is it? So you can go for the freezing or the stun version. Either way, probably go for the stun version, just to 880 is nothing to sneeze at, so that's still a good value. And we get a little bit more. We get 3 more, so I'll take it out of this. And here, instead of going for adrenaline, I would go for frost weapon to give us that free extra 10%, that free extra 20% damage to ourselves here. And this kind of setup here would absolutely overwhelm her with the amount of damage that we could put out quickly, easily, and simply, just because of the fact that you know, this thing will stun her and do ice damage all the time. So she won't be able to do anything against that ice damage that this weapon puts out. So anyways, that's kind of how the Successor of the Throat goes down. And yeah, getting through that 154,000 HP is just a monster at this level of the game. So you definitely want to make sure that you're prepped and ready for her, because going from 0 star to max star, it's like three times the amount of HP she's got, and she kills you with basically any of her attacks in almost one hit. So it's really, really important that you go into this fully wide-eyed and ready, knowing exactly what you're coming up against. So anyways, thank you all for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.